Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Cynthia. I'm going to start welcoming everybody here to our Gov't school session of the day. We'll have a little fun, talk about talk about government contracting, and
Yeah.
we have a special guest with us, Dr. Cynthia Harper, and we'll continue to let folks in. We'll get started about 2 minutes after the hour.
Okay. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today, Cynthia?
It's good. Looks like the weather is turning out beautiful and all is well. Government is still in one place. We're still all here in our bright and shiny faces. Look like it's going to be a good day after all.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are on vacation this week. I've kind of got the impression they started
Yeah.
their summer a little early, and so we'll see how our crowd goes. We'll give them all a few minutes, but
Sure.
I know we've been having some bad weather here the last few days, and it's always a concern to folks. And there's a lot of debris removal and kind of contracts out there, disaster recovery as a result of that in some states like Kentucky and Mississippi, and I think some even Georgia now. I'll be talking about some of those today as we get into the various topics. If you're new to our sessions, you could, as always, drop in a little introduction in the chat. We like to hear from you and help guide our conversation today. I don't always get to the questions in the chat, but if you have a particular question, feel free to tap it in there, and I'll review them as we go along. As always, when you first come into the session, you're in a mute status, and while we do that, I'll just basically for the background noise for everyone. This is a live on YouTube session. It is recorded so that you can play it back immediately after and use it over and over again in the future. We also have a separate recording of this today. You should have been notified when you came into the room for privacy reasons. And we can provide that to you specifically offline as well. We give everybody just a couple of minutes to come into the room before we get started. And my
Absolutely.
timeline today, so we all know, and is try to get you out of here within an hour, and we'll see how that goes based on your questions that you might have of us as we go along. And as we're going through, I'm going to use some real RFPs and invitations to bid to use as a background. So if you have any that you want me to discuss or a particular area you want me to discuss, I'll be glad to do that. Well, it's always better if you follow along. You know that we are big believers in experiential learning, meaning learn by doing. So we dive in there and see things in live action in order to respond back to you. It becomes more meaningful at that point. And so I like to work with you on that. Give just a few more minutes here. Anything you want to add to
We
that,
have,
Cynthia?
yep, we want to, first of all, since Phil's the only person who listed where he's from, which is Queens, New York, we want to welcome Phil. Phil, today's your special hour. If everyone else could list where they are and what they're from, and either you can put your NACE code or what you offer in the government market so that there's some possibilities for us to partner with one another. They lie right here. So list your name, where you're from, and what is your top NACE code or what does your company offer? General appraiser, okay, from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Someone from Sophia's from Orange, California. Suzanne is from Evanston, in Illinois. So we got people from all over the world, Mark. I think that the good thing is that we're all still standing. It hasn't been as disrupted as we could have thought that it was going to be. And we're all still going for the art of the deal here. Here we go. Look at all these wonderful people listing where they're from and the things that they do. Remediation, oil and toxic chemical with Pete Carrico. That's good. That's good.
Well, you know, the
Walter
day's
from
topic, whenever I called you, Cynthia, and I started talking about the topic that we were going to use, the art of the deal is big right now, but the art of the government contracting deal is different. And we know that, don't we, Cynthia? We've been doing
it's
this for a while.
different.
It's a lot
Yes.
different. And so we're going to share some expertise. Tell us about your background, Cynthia. How long have you been doing this?
Well, it started more than like 20 something years ago. Then I stopped and I came back. And when I started in government contracting more than 20 years ago, it was a huge deal. It was a win-win basically. It was not when you were going to win. It was or not if, it was when. And so it was almost a guarantee that you would team with someone, partner with someone, or win a contract. So more than 20 something years in the business, I've seen that it's a great business. And though we're seeing a little difficult processes here and there, I think you've done the right thing by hanging in there. I love it. It's the art of understanding how to work with people, how to meet contracting officers, how to present your company. So
You
it's
know,
really
the first government contracting deal I worked on was in the summer of 1988. So I've been around a little bit
wow.
of time.
Wow, that's great, Mark.
So I was
Yeah.
a young chap then. I wasn't a prime, but I was a consultant on that deal, and I've stayed with it since then. Now I've been doing that for a long time, and I've worked on. I think the other day I counted up was about 420 contracts in 34 states in some capacity, either as a prime or as a sub or as a associate of some format. So been traveling around, and I've learned a little bit, and we want to share some of that with everybody today. I want to thank you all for coming. We'll get started here. We'll continue to let individuals in the room. Just as a reminder, this is a recorded version. It is also live on YouTube right now, and it will be able to be replayed right after, so you can watch it just immediately after this session. We like to do that for others who couldn't quite make it today. Everybody's busy. We get that, of course. And we're going to spend together about an hour today. And feel free to ask us questions, but I like to give you that notice about it is recorded, so you, for privacy reasons, be aware of that when you come online. But Gov't School is a service of GovDirections. GovDirections has been in this market space since 1998. We've been, I did about 10 years after I actually started contracting, because we found out, really how hard it was to define the bids. That was almost impossible back then. That was really before having, basically information flowing and bid flow information on the internet. And so we just saw how difficult, but we did see the opportunity to step in there. And so we've been now aggregating since that time, and have developed the largest aggregator that is available to members that are out there, and we are real proud of that. And but as as we went along, we learned, yeah, you see, Mark, it's not just the finding, but we need some help, some instructions. And my other background is as doing education at a graduate school level for folks who are actually writing RFPs, and I teach them how to do that. I've been doing that for a while, and kind of sharing that I have a background in public administration, and so we created Gov School. And Gov School was there to really give you some advice and templates and some information to learn to win, not just to find, but then to learn to win. And so here we are going into, I don't even know how many years that is. We're now 2025, but I think we're 20 plus years. And we're just real glad that you've been able to put your trust into us as we step in and assist our members. Now, I think we just passed, it's just over 140,000 registered users in some capacity. And like in everything that you do, and I always start off any presentation I do with this one slide. It's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. And believe me,
Everyone
it's
would
hard.
do it.
It's Everything's hard, especially lately. It seems that way, doesn't it? To you, Cynthia, does it seem that way? I know it
Yeah, it
does to
seems
others.
hard. It seems it's piercing, but I think that makes us who we are. I don't think anything that we really work at, that we really desire, comes extremely easy. So, like Tom Hanks said in League of Their Own, if it's supposed to be hard, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And the good thing about dealing with the federal government is you're dealing with the largest buyer in the world. That's pretty impressive, actually, that you have the
Yeah,
boldness to say, I can provide a service to the largest um, buyer in the whole wide world.
and I think a lot. I would just point out the League of Their Own. That's about a softball team of all
Yeah.
things. Everybody would think softball's easy. until you really want to be the best at it. And then we have to practice. We have to really get out there and learn. And you just spoke about the size of this marketplace, and not just the federal, but also local and state. But $7 trillion plus marketplace, and I think we're all under the impression. A lot of folks are under the impression that there's been a reduction in that for some reason. When in fact, this quarter over last year's quarter at the same time, 7.5% increase. It's not slowing down, folks. If you somehow think that, you potentially are missing opportunities. We have just the other day I think we came off on Friday some 57,000 active listings as specifically local and state governments enter into their final spending period in June and then start a new budget in July. The ones that are on a fiscal year July 1 time cycle, and then you have a whole another group coming right behind them that like Texas is big on October 1st. So it is a large spending period. And so we think that having those tools ready to go for you now is a good strategy. And so that's why we are here today. And we want to talk about really kind of, and I invited Cynthia because I know no one better than to help us. She's one of my favorite speakers on this topic, but we want to focus on what the art is. It really is an art and in the process. And because it's how you look at it. Every single bit is really how you take it and see if it looks easy and you can get it there and it really fits you, then it's a great deal. But I also want to talk about, one of the number one calls I get, Cynthia, I don't know if you have the same situation, but I get calls about micro purchasing. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And so I'm gonna break up the art of the deal into various deals, the micro purchase deal. A lot of us like to start there. The casual deal, the ones that just kind of fall in your place or you're at the right spot at the right time. Well, you think that accidentally happens, it doesn't. It's a planned action, and you got to make sure you're actually find yourself at being at the right place. And then I'm gonna talk about the complex deals. Some of them are just really complex, but I'm gonna take that mystery out of those complex deals and show you how to make it easier using some tools that we have available for you these days. And the rewarding deal, profit. How do you make something rewarding to you? And in that process, understanding how to price in the government sector so you don't lose your shirt, and that's important. And I'm gonna, as all of this goes through, I'm gonna kind of introduce you to tools that we have available now, and the one specifically is our RFP writing GPT to help you determine really what is next. And as we going forward in the next year, some of the new tools that we're going to have for you to really expand your use of technology to make sure not only are you finding and not only you're learning to win, but you're actually winning. And that's our goal. So if everybody's good with that, we're going to get all of this done within about 30 minutes. Anything you want to add to that, Cynthia?
No, I think that
Yeah.
what you have comprised for them today is absolutely amazing. I like it, Mark, how you streamline things. You're taking advantage of technology, not afraid to use it so that people can win. A lot of people are afraid to use AI. They think, oh, it's a sign of not being astute, but actually it's a tool. It's like Microsoft and anything else. So I appreciate you incorporating today's technology with, in particular, in the federal space. People need that.
Well, I
So
learned early on if you're not willing to adapt a little bit, the thing's going to pass you by pretty quickly. And you don't want to have that happen. And not even when you're my age or even older than I am. You just still don't want it to happen. And we're not going to let that happen. We're going to teach you how to really take that mystery out of these things and use them to your full capacity. But don't fall into, I didn't quite know what I was doing and I made a mistake. We don't need mistakes. Government contracting is not about mistakes. It's about, as you'll hear me use this terminology, the three letters as we go forward, ABC, accuracy, brevity, clarity, and that's really key to when you respond to governments that you follow those parts there. And I'm going to kind of talk about that as we go along. But in deal making itself, you got to understand first of all what is the deal. The deals that are out there. Okay, first you have your request for information. Basically, a government's wanting to get to know you a little bit. I want to do some deal making. You see if you're going to be at the table with them, learn about you, and then they want to have seat. You got to have the first thing you really have to have when you start deal making is a capability statement. Have it ready to go, and you're using it and you're presenting it the right way, and it actually speaks about your capabilities within your organization. A lot of people get confused with that, Cynthia. They'll talk about it as a resume, and it's not a resume. It's
no, it's
about
not.
really what are you capable of accomplishing, and nobody is better at preparing a solid capability statement than Dr. Harper. And then there's requests for qualifications. You'll see these. These are really kind of getting ready, getting on that pre-approved list. Sometimes the GSA schedule is not quite that RFQ, but it's sort of like that. And essentially, you're getting pre-approved. and you're on a list, and then organizations can buy from you. But we'll do official RFQs, and we'll call for that almost always at the beginning of a government's fiscal year or calendar year. And you'll see that routinely, and you want to have yourself ready to be able to respond to those. We'll see a flurry of those coming out in the next few weeks, so that you're getting ready for the fiscal year 2026. I think it is. Yeah,
2026.
so gosh knows.
Can you believe it's the half of the year, guys, already? My goodness.
We're going to be on the next decade here pretty soon. Okay. And then source of salt. A source of salt, basically, they're trying to determine if there really is a marketplace at all that exists. And, maybe I'm looking for something. Maybe I saw this one the other day. I'm looking for a janitorial crew in Montana in a remote area that's basically for one office that's within. So, but they could also do some snow removal. Okay. And so it was a combination of activities that they wanted to make sure was available. And so they wanted to see if there's a market out there. And if there is, oftentimes those there are really great because that's one of those things that happen to be at the right place at the right time. You submit that and then potentially just strike the deal. And that deal making happens quick. And then, of course, you have the invitation to quote. These are simple transactions, typically. Also important to be at the right spot, the DSBS profile that you have. A lot of times you get out of the blue a call. And be careful about those emails that you might get out of the blue. Not all the people have all the best scruples. And sometimes you might fall into a trap. So always make sure it's from like a .gov, .gov, or .mil address in military. So either one of those addresses would be okay. But anybody else where I've got this deal that you need to be potentially send me some money, and then I can get you on that list. Be careful about that. If you're not quite sure, give us a call. We'll be glad to help you about the invitation to quote. Very simple, something that you can, that true micro purchase. It's a transaction. I need to happen. I need 20 pairs of shoes for the football team, and I need for you to respond to me and give me your best quote on these cleats. And here's exactly what I need. Okay, invitation to bid or request for bid, just a little bit further involved than the invitation to quote. I'm giving you some specific parameters of what I'm actually looking for. And I want you to give me your best price or your best quality. Maybe it's a combination quality and price, but not a true evaluation. And then the one I really like to really deal with, and then to make it is the deal making. It's really involved. Is a request for proposal. And the reason I like that because you really do get to shine is if you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, then you really get to point out to your qualities, your best qualities, and you're able to get in there and negotiate some pricing traditionally. But these are a little bit more complex. And today, as I talk about some of the tools, you're going to find that you can use them for any of these deal making exercises that you might be involved with because the truth is all of them and under the the ABCs, accuracy, brevity, clarity, they all have these components that are consistent. I'm going to talk about some of those components. But the first thing you always want to know, anytime you really are going into it, you think it's a deal, but is it really a deal? Okay, and I like to talk about that because I hear that all the time. Mark, isn't this deal already done when I see the RFP? And the truth of the matter is it's not. Okay. And the reason why I say that, because a request for proposal takes a lot of time or an invitation to quote or an invitation to bid. This takes government's time to do this. And they don't have to go through these exercises if and they have exceptions that they can use just about any time if there really is truly an exception they want to make. But whenever you go for an RFP, it is a solicitation, meaning they want competitive responses from you and others. And so I pointed out so you're not really, you're not wasting your time. They're always interested in buying something that's important to their organization, a commodity, some sort of valuable asset. So they've got a lot of folks involved with it. And you'll see their evaluation criteria. You'll see all the individuals potentially, the team that's going to make the decision, and you understand very quickly that there's a lot of folks involved in this. So it really is something important to that organization. So whenever you respond, they want you to give them back a business proposal. And I use that specific part of it too, because occasionally I'll see some people write in a pencil or pen, some answers to something and fax it back, and maybe just do a quick response back without a cover letter or without a true business response, and you just don't do yourself any justice. In addition, you can't go in and just arbitrarily, ask, Chat GBT to give you a response to this bid and send it in. That's not a business proposal, okay? A business proposal takes into account you're the business person, You're the one who's got the entrepreneurial spirit. The government wants to read that. They want to understand what you really have to offer. And so you can't take shortcuts in the process. You can use tools to assist you. And that's what we want to focus on some today, some of these tools that can help you do that to make things quicker and go from, something that would take you literally weeks to do to now we can do it in minutes to hours and do it very well and sometimes much better. I'm not one to shy away. I know a lot of times as a professor, I'm, in class, I say, well, now you can use GPT technology and other types of writings assistants to help you as a tool. Okay. But it can't replace your knowledge. Okay. You got to come to the table with that knowledge. It's the same thing with your business. You got to have a full understanding of what your business is and that part. So you can't just jump ahead of things. Okay. But like I said, there's some basic parts, a typical, sorry, we'll come that in there quick. There's some basic typical parts. And this is the structure of this. Understanding structure is really important when you're reading any of those deal making exercises, specifically the RFP, but any of those, you're going to look for these basic features. And I think there's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Wait, one, two, three, four, nine of those listed there. Okay. And I was going to say 10. I wanted to count just to make sure. Okay. But there's 9 things there that I really highlight. And the first is that statement of work. And the first thing that whenever you see the statement of work, I always just jump ahead of that slide. That's the most important part because when you read that, it's going to be mostly a summary of maybe a paragraph, maybe a paragraph and a half. It needs to speak to you. It needs to get in the back of your head. You need to get that song. You're the one I wanted to find. Coldplay. And if it doesn't say that, if I said to you, I'm going to go see Coldplay in Miami on July the 26th. I can't wait. We'll be going down
Oh,
there.
wow.
But it's one of my favorite bands. This is one of my favorite songs. But if it doesn't start playing in the back of your head, then you need to move along. It's not for you. And I'm going to show you some tricks to help you make sure that that's happened. Just like, whether or not you're going to listen to the record or you're going to listen to it on your 8-track tape player. I don't know. But wherever you listen to it, it's speeding up the process and we're learning quickly and how we want to do that. Then you're going to look at your technical specs. Okay. And that should match you at a high degree, but you don't have to have a 100% match on that. Get a good percentage match, and then that's good. I'm going to show you how you can evaluate that percentages and very quickly take what could potentially take a 200-page document and summarize it for you very quickly so that you can get a high ranking score for yourself and build on something I call indicators of success. Schedule, okay, how a timeline as a part of that indicator. The schedule could be two parts of that. First part of the schedule is how long do you have to complete something? Okay, when is the pre-bid meeting? When is the question? When are the questions and answers due? On the other side of that, when is the work due? When am I getting paid? That's probably the most important part of the schedule. I need to know because I got to be able to financially support this. We're not governments. We don't have huge sums of money, and a lot of us don't, at least. And so we need to have that understanding before we enter into it. So I have clients routinely come to me and say, "Well, Mark, I'm just getting started," and they always are kind of somewhat embarrassed by this, but don't be because that's everybody. 90% of people will come to me and do the same thing. I don't really have the money to finance this to start off with. How do I make it work? And then there's ways to do that, but understanding the schedule of that process of payment and things of this nature are really important. List of deliverables. What do you actually have to do to get paid in the process? Okay. Once again, high degree of match, but not a 100% perfect match. This is where you work in teaming, and how you might bring somebody else to the table, and how are you allowed to do that? What is a subcontractor versus somebody who's just an associate or somebody that's employee or 1099? How do they all fit that all in? Contract terms and conditions. Well, that's how they're going to tell you how you fit it all in. This is where your profit center's at. You got to understand your contract. Their governments don't make changes in contracts. They'll always say, tell us what kind of changes you want. And that's literally the way that they push you over to the side because you should say none. Okay. If you can live with them, live with them. Okay. Format of the proposal. The best thing about governments, any government, is they're going to tell you how to respond. So you can't ignore that. And so whenever you're using technology to assist you, you got to give us some specific instructions. Well, I really like what you're thinking, chat. I really want you to follow the instructions that you're given from the actual government that formatted the proposal, and you got to follow it to the T. And don't include things that are not accurate. It's got to be fully accurate. If you don't understand something, then don't include it. Ask the question back to me. so instructional process of training your services that you might use. And so you got to get comfortable with training. It's no different than you would have an administrative assistant potentially. A lot of us used to have that sort of role in our capacity. Now we're using all this technology to bypass that. But we used to say, well, you had to train that individual and you had to work with them to really fully understand you, and until they got to the point where they can manage it themselves. And that's the same process. And then your qualifications and experience, have that ready to go. Have different your certifications, things of this nature, your resumes in a format that can be easily understood, and have that section. But you'll see what kind of qualification experiences that those organizations will request. And while they always want this, always look for words like must have, absolutely required, and then preferred, things of this nature, so that you know when it really is truly required. And then a cost breakdown. How are they going to? How do they want you to do something in pricing? And this becomes really important too as you're using analytical tools to be able to go in there and really tell you where the marketplace at. When I bid work that I do, I usually bid really truly at the 75th percentile of the marketplace. And pretty at this point in my career, I've been doing this a while. I almost get it to the T of where it needs to be at when I'm bidding, and I can usually tell from the competition. And I'll show you some tools on how you actually get to the point to see where the competition's at. And then always, 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 everything you do, it should be built around the evaluation criteria. So read that. I would jump from the statement of work to the evaluation criteria and look and see how they're going to truly evaluate me. And then as I'm going through writing, I always tell, and when I'm using my writing skills, it says build this around the evaluation criteria. Every answer should be evaluated as it's being prepared so that I know how I've got to get that 100 if I can get it, because it is so different than a class. I mean, when I teach my grad school, that's the first question I get every single time. And the first day is, Professor Knowles, how do I get that A? How do I get an A in your class? What's your evaluation criteria? What's the matrix? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Let's learn something first, and then we get to that. And then I don't care. All they want is A. So we'll get to that point. Okay. So here we go. Now, Cynthia, you want to add anything to that? I'm just going on. You still mute? Well, if you do, just jump in, and we'll get to that point where we're going back and forth. But always remember that evaluation criteria is in the statement of work, and you always want to make sure it's the one that you want to find. Okay. And I always like to point this too, because you're going to have a limited amount of time, but you'll find that work expands so as to fill the time available for completion. This is Parkinson's law. It's a business law. And so when we're doing our business, so if we only have so much time, we're going to use time to our advantage in a productive way. And we're not going to send things in early. I've got a bid due Friday. I'm going to send it in most likely tomorrow, Thursday. Okay, I'm not going to send it in last Friday. It doesn't do me any good. Too much could potentially happen in between there. And as we do these things, as we step in, always, 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 no matter what tools you have, read your entire proposal before you ever enter into a final transaction of any sort. Okay. I know clients that I work with, I always go back once the first time I say, have you downloaded the proposal? Have you read it in its entirety? And they get tired of hearing me say that, but I'm like, this is a true business transaction. It could bankrupt you if you read something. If you don't read something, you miss it. You don't want to have that happen. And it's not a good practice. So you got to read everything. You pay attention to those areas that we talked about, these particular parts, and you won't miss something. Okay. You set aside, think about it in your head a little bit too. Uh, and then you want to talk to your colleagues and your organization. And I know Cynthia and I, we go back and forth. Some of her clients and my clients would say, well, do you think this is a good one for that client? And what about us? And things of this nature. And we do talk about that as we go into it. Make sure it's a good fit. And then always try to complete that proposal. Whenever I start writing, I usually try to complete it in one setting, but not submitting it. Okay, I'm gonna complete it, get everything in the structure the correct way, and then set it aside and then think about it again, come back to it and finalize it. Okay, and so I'm gonna show you some of the tools that we use. The first one I always like to point you to is your Gov Directions RFP delivery account. Either one of these services that you're using, the Directions Simpler is our service. It's our primary brand. Gov't RFP delivery has introduced new tools, AI tools, sorting tools, other methods to monitor, and is more advanced. But you can use either one. Your username and password works at both. And so when you come into your account, the first things we really strive to do is to introduce you to some basics, okay, as we go into these. And these will become important as I start talking about, the art of the deals and where you're going to find information and how you get yourself prepared to win that deal. Okay. The first thing is this little option here. Once you add your UEI under your settings tab, I'll click here, settings. Okay. Update my UEI, unique entity ID. If you're not familiar with that, we'll be glad to assist you with that. You add it here. The UEI is given to you by SAM, the System for Award Management. Let me just jump over there real quick because a lot of folks, when they first come to us, they're not, they've heard of SAM, they think it's the government and so forth. But the truth of the matter is, SAM is not a bidding platform. SAM is the System for Award Management. I like to refer to it as the accounts payable system of the federal government. Now, they do have contracts listed, but you actually bid with contracting officers directly, not on this site here. It is basically it's a one-stop shop for federal government information and flow. We'll talk about federal assistance, entity information. These are your entities, whether or not you're on the disaster response registry giving us. But in order to bid on a federal government contract, you have to get a unique entity ID. Okay, make sure you get that. And you go here. Always remember it's 100% free to register here. And that's important for me to point that out. There's a lot of folks that, once again, not the best scruples. And I hear clients routinely saying, I just paid $4,000 or $5,000 to do this. And you didn't have to. Okay. And so everybody can add some value. But make sure you know that and understand that. Go in there with eyes, I like to say eyes wide open so you understand what you're getting. Once you get that UEI, okay, go in, add that to your settings here, and then we're going to link right here. You tap in there. Until you do that, you will have your phone number there. But you tap onto it at that point, we're going to take you to the Dynamic Small Business Search System. This is your DSBS profile. This becomes very important in your deal making. Okay, and so if you don't have this done, you're missing opportunity. Okay, so get it right. You want to make sure you have your all the basic information here, ways to get in touch with you, all your details. The governments know when they search you here and they find you here, and they're going to search you by keywords around your potential, going in under your capabilities narrative. I only do one thing basically is demonstrate, but you might have maybe 10, 20 keywords that you're going to use about your business, and you're going to put it there as well as under your keyword section. And that's how they're going to find. They're going to pull you up, and they're going to see you're in here, and they're going to know you got that great UEI, and you got that cage number. This says that you're ready to go, that you got everything ready, and that gives them a lot of confidence because I think the number one way to really make a deal happen is to build confidence in both of the parties, that you're confident with the government you're working with, and the government is confident in what you're doing. And the way they know that is because you've done everything right here. You've listed everything. You've got all your details. You went through certifications. You've been approved. You've actually been given set aside various sides. Like I'm got total small business here, and so forth. It could be woman-owned business. It could be veteran-owned, service disabled, and so forth. And so having that there, and then also going in and actually listing your other certifications that are non-federal. So if you got them with your individual state certifications, maybe if you're in Virginia, you got, I think it's the SWAM. If you got in EMA and SBR, maybe in California, you're certified small business or a service disabled. There's different ones that are out there. So but list those in there as well. And so the second thing I always like to point out, and John's got his hands raised. I'll ask you in just a minute. Okay. But let me stop right there before we go to the capability statement. So John, what kind of question you got?
So you're recommending that we all go to the SBA site in our local government, complete that form online.
You don't actually complete that form. You have access to your DSBS profile. The DSBS profile is an overlay of your SAM registration. So you go to SAM, you register in SAM, the
Okay.
System for Award Management. The Small
All right.
Business Administration picks that up. And then
Got
you
it.
can actually manage your DSBS profile. You can add things to it like your capabilities. So once you're in there, then you can go back and you can edit it.
There
Okay.
you go.
If you're not familiar how to get there, you just go to connect.sba.gov. Okay. This uses your login.gov address, and you should be able to log into your DSBS profile. They will ask you some basic questions about that you use to set up your SAM registration, and then it will tie into your to your account. Okay. But yes, I am recommending that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. In fact, if you haven't done that, do it this afternoon. Okay. That's how important it is.
ASAP. Yep.
Yep. Okay. And we assist with that. If you need somebody to help you with it when you get in there, you usually can do all these things yourself. Okay. But I know it's a little bit of a challenge when you first start out. Bill, question?
Yeah, can that be accessed through SAM?
No, you
I
cannot.
have a SAM account. No. Okay.
So your SAM information is in that account, in that system, but it's not, you can, if you do update your SAM account, so if I add my NATES code, if I addition one, then it'll eventually update. Or if I get service disabled through maybe VA or something, it updates. Okay, so these things come together. So one-stop shop, but you don't update your capabilities narrative and things within SAM. Okay.
Okay.
Good questions.
This is good, Mark. I was actually for some reason talking for 10 minutes and you didn't hear me. Why? Because I was on mute. But I'm glad you're showing them the relevance of their having their SBA profile listed in DSBS, because people don't understand how to go back in and update it so that they make themselves more marketable with the NACE codes, the keywords, the correct information. Make sure the emails and everything in there is listed properly so that when they're looking for you, they can easily find you.
That's correct. And so the first part of that deal making, if you're there, those are the guys that are busy, the ones that are there. The ones that are sitting on twiddling thumbs thinking, well, I don't know why nobody's calling me. Well, they're not there. And that's the number one. And I can't stress the importance of this is where you really learn about. There's a lot of things on the internet about micro purchases, but the way to truly learn about micro purchase is to be there in the right way. And then you get a call and somebody, you said, I sell shoes. And somebody says, I need to buy shoes. And then they match up with you. That's the number one way they find you. Okay. Because they usually have to get 2 to 3 quotes minimum. I can bypass some other rules if I just call up and get 3 quotes, and they're using this list to go out there and actually do that, or their own list. But most likely they would go to, because this is a ready-made database. And not only that, but large companies will come here and look for those 2 folks to team with. I can go into the DSBS system and I can say, show me total small businesses in Georgia within this zip code. And maybe I want to get somebody who's in Americus, Georgia, because I'm bidding on a project in Americus. I can really get that precise in my search. And so that's why you want to be in there in the right way. Okay.
Let's answer a question from Angela. She's had her hand raised for a minute. And then I want to answer something from Chandra Mast. Go ahead, Angela.
Oh, hello. I had 2 quick questions. I am set up in a DSBS profile. I'm trying to understand how to connect. You're saying you need to connect your SBA to the DSBS profile. Did I understand that properly?
No, the DSBS is SBA.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Now we have our UI number. We've been set with SAM.gov for 2 years now. We have not won a bid. We've been doing a request for quotes. Reached out to a lot of federal contractors. We just aren't winning bids. I also had a question. Let me see. So I don't have any certifications, and as far as being woman owned or minority owned, I am not like officially. I believe you have to pay for those certifications, if I understand that properly.
Yes.
No, not necessarily. Yeah.
Can you list
Yeah.
that you're woman owned, and can you list that on your DSPS profile, or you have to have the certifications?
Okay, so you can, first of all, you can self declare. Okay, this is
Self-declare.
a part of your process. Say I'm a one-on-one business, but then there. If you want to have various certifications, the number one way to get certified is, of course, with the SBA. Okay, and so you can type in certify.sba.gov.
Okay.
And or you can come to it in different ways. Okay, and these are the primary federal level certifications. And
Okay.
there is no cost. There is no cost to do. You don't have to pay anybody anything
Oh
except
my goodness, I
going.
didn't know that.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
did not
So
know
you
that.
you can. Now people can add value. You can pay me if you want to. No, I'm just want to say it, but you don't have to. I mean, you literally can come in here and you can. Should I apply? Where I apply at? It's very straightforward. The SBA does a phenomenal job at this. To be honest with you, they do a really good job. I'm big. I'd like to give credit where credit's due. Now, there's also individual states that do this. So if I wanted to be certified within Virginia, I would go in and I would just type in Small Business Virginia certification. Go make sure it's a .gov website, and
Mhm.
they're going to walk you through it. It's not all you have to do is provide them the information, and by the time you provided it to someone else, you would have provided it to the individual government agency.
Okay, and my last question, thank you. That was like a lot. That was you know, you get a lot of emails, et cetera. Like, you know, we could do this for you. This has been a very organic process. Me and another person, we've been like setting this up. I feel like we've been setting up for like 2 years and bidding at the
Sure.
same time and learning as we go. And are you familiar with Fed Connect? We're also
I
on
don't
that.
speak. That's a private company. We don't want to. This is an open channel, and I don't
Okay,
want to
fair
speak
enough.
about any other brand names or
Good,
anything of that nature.
good. Then
Okay.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that, and I'll leave that right there.
Thank you very much.
You're
Yeah,
very welcome.
everybody can add value, and I won't. I share that because we're a private company too, and so I don't want to speak ill of anyone. But I'm
Okay.
just telling you, if you're
It's not
dealing
an
with the
official
federal,
government. It's not
yeah,
official like government. It's not like a SAM.gov. It's not like your DSBS profile. That's something totally extra. Okay, I understand. My apologies.
yeah, there are ways that you can. There is federal systems you bid on too, and they have similar names. So you make sure the one that you're actually bidding on is a .gov website. Okay,
Understood.
so
Understood.
okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. I know I got some more questions. I'm going to ask you to hold some of the questions. I got a little bit more, and then we're going to come into the more details here. Okay, that'll help us out, and so I can meet the time frame for everybody else as well. Okay, and so in your account, one other thing I want to point out is your in the process here is your capability statement. Making sure you have a good, solid capability statement. You can add it here if you don't have one. You can go in there, and there's folks who can assist you with that. We have technology, but you add it to your account, and then we're indexing this and also using our GPT and other technology to analyze information. But it's here available online, and you want to build your capability statement nowadays. You have particular requirements for it, but you want to build it in a way that technology can use it most efficiently. Okay, and it's important that you do that and you follow the framework for that in the right way. But you can add it here. And the last, more advanced services through us is making sure you're organized in the right way. And we will those who use this service under my drive, building all your information to expand it so that you have your information ready to go where in Google Drives or you can use OneDrive, whatever you're using, having information there that then also can be indexed and used. And so the systems now can read everything that's in your files. And the more it gets to know you, and the more it's trained in the right way, the better you're going to be in the process of responding. And so let me introduce you now to really our rider system. So folks are using this. If you're using, I have built this and we went back and forth on what systems to use, and I may eventually do something similar on Gemini, but not right yet. Here I'm using a ChatGPT as under the OpenAI series. But if you come in, you can actually go in and you can search. If you're, let me see, if you when you first log in, you can go through and you can search GPTs. I think it's there, and you can just search Gov Directions RFP Rider. Yep, and you just type in that, and it comes up on mine. So I got 1,024 now using it right now. So when you open it up, and when you open it up, and you can say something nice about it if you want to. That's always helpful. You can start your chat. Okay, we got you some initial prompts. Okay, well, the first thing you really want to understand is what the art of the deal is really understanding how you're going to prompt somebody. Just like you walk in a room, you're going to shake their hand the right way, or how you going to approach them. I think we see a lot of different approaches in a lot of different ways these days, but understanding those prompts. And so one thing that we've done is, as a part of this, I've built tools under some of our services here, sort of the best prompts, how fillable forms, how it's in toolkits, and how it actually all works. But my best prompts I have here designed and sort of a checklist. But understand, you want to have your own best prompts. Here's some guides there. It's all. But some basic ones like draft a response and do some reviews for me. But one of the things I want to show you sort of as a trick today in order to get started and really kind of finding the right ones is going in and looking at what are you really after? Okay, understanding. And so this is exercise I require all of my folks I work with on RFP writing to go through. The first thing I want you to do is to take and define, the perfect RFP. What is the perfect RFP to you? What is the perfect business? And I know I always kid around when I first started. I'm hearing this in some of your voices today. I would have done anything. Okay, I don't care. I don't care where it was at. I just need a business. Got to feed my family. But then things went along. I said, well, yeah, but that's true, but because there's 57,000, I got quickly overwhelmed. I don't know where to go. And then I didn't do anything. You just get paralyzed by inertia there. You just don't really, paralysis by analysis kind of thing. You don't really do anything. Okay. And so I step back though, take it, say, what is a perfect? So I come up with 10 things that are perfect for me. Okay. And I always like to, and I always say, I'm going to use these criteria. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, in this profile, listed all 10 things. If you want to know what they are, I want to work in the Southeast United States. I want no more than 250 employees. I want it to be a city or county, and so forth. Okay. And then only that, but I'm going to give an evaluation criteria. And if an RP that we look at it has a score of 90% or more, then that's the one that's going to hit that. It's going to be excellent to me. That's the one I wanted to find. If it's 80 to 90, 89%, then it's a great chance. In fact, I'm going to say, success is you're the one I wanted to find. You are the one. I'm gonna have a little fun with it. Are the one I wanted to. Okay. And I'm gonna tell it it's a great chance, but I'm gonna go past anything that's below 70%. Okay. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna start by using this as my first prompt. And if sure I spell, it'll correct your spelling usually. So, I'm going to start off with that. Use this exercise to really get started if you don't know where to start at. Okay. Let's just introduce ourselves. Chat. I read somewhere the other day that the basic hello chat, thank you chat, things like that is actually taking up so much memory now that they can actually think of fill a buildings, whatever. So I said that we're all so nice and we are responsive to our GPT and others that we do that by just general nature, but you don't have to do it. You just tell it what you want. Okay. And so look at there. I've got a scoring rubric by an indicator, and I've got this here ready to go. Now, sometimes I'll copy this over. Okay. And so here's my category. And so if it's 90 to 100. And so I've got these four. Would you like to give me an Excel or a Google Sheet? Yes, I want a Google Sheet. Yes, I want a Google Sheet. Okay, because I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep a record of everything I do in my Google Sheet, so that it can then read it and understand it later on, and I can share it with others. And have a go. I'm not going to share my chat open chat series right here with you, but I could share it with you on a Google Sheet. So it gave me that download, and say, and I'm going to go in there and say, here are some RFPs I'm considering. Please use. I always say please use. I worked at McDonald's. Actually, I worked at Dairy Queen. So I have to say please and thank you. Please use my ranking to evaluate. And I'm going to drop in I downloaded those to get us going. But I went through and I actually did some reviews. Here's two. Let's just use these two. And you could use, I think you can do up to 10. So you're looking to maybe get up in the morning. I'm looking at about 10 different ones, and pull them on the RFP daily alert comes to you every day at 4 a.m. And it's going to go through. And I could go out and do something else at this point while it's evaluating. Okay, so I've looked at this and we actually have an office down at Valdosta, so I thought about this one already. I looked at it and say, it's a score with a 10. See, I got a 1 on this one, so it's a big organization, bigger than I want to do with it. So that's one reason I've already thought about this. Let's see if it gives me a score. The average 77. So proceed, but selectively. Saying, okay, you might not like this one. Okay, let's go here to number 2. This one in California. Maybe I didn't choose the one in California. Oh, this is Barrow County School. It's a school district. So this one is going to pass. Okay, so I'm not even going to bother with it. Save my time. I don't need to read it. It's got a 60. It's not going to be anywhere in there, but that's 77. That might then that's going to be one I might put on the back burner for right now. But how easy this is to really give me an analysis of these RFPs. So I'm spending what I used to take me hours and hours to do. Now it takes me just a few seconds and a lot of pressure to actually get done. And I do this with every one of our clients. And when we're working through individually, when I say clients, these are clients, they use us for a variety of services, including RFP writing services, but to help them understand which one's a good one or not. And because if you're coming in and if you've got some restrictions, you can't really work the project that requires a bond, and the bond's buried on page 92 of a document, and you've already put in all that energy, it's a waste of time, folks. So why not just go ahead and run a query and say, here's one of the number one things that can't have a bond. If it has a bond, then I don't want to look at it. Okay, so it'll tell it. So it'll tell you, save you some time. And use combinations of tools where you're using a summary from us, and then you're pulling some of the documents, then dropping them in here to review those. And it doesn't matter if they're using one of the 40 or so third-party systems that are out there that are potentially wanting you to register with everybody, and then you're only using the ones that are in their database. I mean, so you miss out on a lot of opportunity if you play that game, and so you want to pull them down. And so that I just like to introduce that as a potential, and using these prompts to get started is then sort of the next phase of that. Okay, but indicators of success, building them is really an important part of working with government and working the deal and understanding the art of the deal itself. Okay, and having those templates and everything in a usable format ready to go will speed things up. So I'm gonna stop there. I'm spent now about 50 minutes talking and just answer questions, because I think we get a lot more done when I'm just answering the questions that you have. But I want to share with you sort of the approach that I try to take whenever I'm using the tools in an efficient way, not necessarily preparing my entire RFP using this tool. It potentially could give me a result, but the government's going to know that. I'm not going to win. It might fulfill a goal of getting something submitted, but I'm not going to win, because the government doesn't want you to give them a chat GPT response. That isn't what they want. They want you to give them something fast. Okay, so I got some. The best way to, I think, do this is by hand raising, or also Dr. Harper can help me out with calling on folks. But first, was it Cynthia? Was it Chandra that had it call?
Chandra had a question. I think you've kind of answered it, but Chandra, feel free to unmute and make a comment.
Hello.
Hi.
I've been peppering lots of questions here because this is fantastic, truly, and I appreciate all this time. I have an ITQ, and I'm trying to figure out where to get the work. I've been going to each one of these websites that you've been sending us to, and I just, it seems like, I mean, for all the demand that I keep hearing, there doesn't seem to be anything in the entire state of Pennsylvania. So maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot.
So what kind of work do you do?
Yeah, what's your top NAICS code?
General appraiser.
Okay.
Like,
I would just share with you that in your field, when you do an appraisal work, it can be based on the time of the year. Okay. And they're most likely they're going to hire them at either the end of the fiscal year or the beginning of the calendar of fiscal year. And usually in Pennsylvania, if I'm correct, I know it's usually a calendar year.
Interesting.
But yeah. Okay. So, and not only that, but the type of government, it will be the ones who would actually be most likely procuring your services. And yours, the bureaus would be, although some of your the cities and townships would be doing their own type, and they usually would do that out in a different area. But when you come here, and I'll put a word out to our research staff, but as you know, we don't create the work. We can only report the work. Okay. But we do have the category just for appraisal. Start there, and I would actually go appraisal, apply the filter, and you can save the filter. And anytime you run, it's always going to show you the most recent first. Now, as you step into it, we'll see Connecticut. And if I wanted to, so we do see appraisal type work, there's 30 or so there. And we can check specifically for Pennsylvania. I can run a script or query just for that.
I see one here.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Then I have to join your company. Okay. That's just giving me the opportunity to read the details of these bids then.
That's correct. So when you open up, we basically present to you all the bids that are there. It's aggregated. What you pay for us is the summation of that information. Literally, you can do what we do, millions of investment, and have a team of about 20 people who do this for you, or you can pay a small fee. And that's how this really kind of works. It's a software as a service. But on this one here, this is for within the state of Pennsylvania. is actually listed as a commission. So it's found on the state of Pennsylvania website. So you could go find it yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, you can go and you can actually search, take the Pennsylvania Turnpike. This is a nice deal. Okay, this is a good deal. Okay, and most likely you're going to be hiring more than one or two. Okay, so you can get on the list. This is a great way to get and so you can download your information. Okay, and then you can run it, get your 10 indicators, run it through it real quick, see if you find something. But this would
you're
be
at
all
the
over. Yeah, go ahead.
e-marketplace.
Yeah, so this is on the Pennsylvania marketplace. Now, just to say,
Mhm.
everything that we publish, it's not that we don't work specifically with any government at all. It's not that we dislike government, and governments actually love us. About 80% of our bids are published directly by government in some way. But we want an arm's length relationship, basically like a newspaper. So we can publish with any item there, and we send them to the original source, and that allows us to report to you. And what we do is we save you the time. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. Now, John, you had a question?
No, you answered it during
Yeah.
your explanation to Chandra. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
great. Matthew?
Just, I've been looking at a lot of stuff with DLA
Mhm.
and been having mostly issues with actually getting a response from some of the vendors that the NSN numbers come from. Now, I don't know if it's that they're bidding them themselves or they just don't provide the pricing. If there's any, better way of trying to find, the compliant items that you guys can recommend, because a lot of, I'm looking at the environmental and the safety side, and a lot of your stuff is DLA work that shows up on your guys, daily emails.
Okay, and when you say DOA, there's a lot of acronyms that can refer to.
The defense logistics.
So DLA.
DLA.
Okay.
DLA,
Logistics.
yes.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, for those who are not familiar, John's found a great source of really micro purchases. That's one thing, because they are a lot of, a micro purchase truly is defined by the dollar volume. Okay, and so local governments usually see about 10,000 to 25,000. Most states are 25,000 now. And same thing with the federal government. If it's above 25,000, I think is the number. It has to be published on SAM, but if not, it can be published at other sources like DIBS, Defense Internet Bulletin Board. It's the Defense Logistics Agency, and they have a lot of items here. You can come in, you can search all of these bids here, as well as SAM, as well as all 50 states are in our system. It's just there are all these different platforms, and so they oftentimes will buy, and they'll issue a document that John's referring to. That's Matthew's referring to. That is, will give you an item, and it'll give you an NSN number, the part number. And you go, some companies will go out and try to get those specifically. Well, the ones you want to watch for are the ones that are total small business set asides. And that way, if it's a larger manufacturer who has that product code and they're not bidding it directly, okay, and they may be even looking to work with you, but they have to be careful how they actually approach you and compare to others. And they can't get into, commonly referred to as collusion, where they're basically setting the price and everybody's going in, they're giving you a favor price of some sort. And so sometimes they don't really respond to you. They stay out of that game. So you have to be aware of that, where the practice is. You got to build a relationship with those companies, and that helps them understand, really how to deal with you as an individual who's interested in bidding on something. If it's a more common item, you'll have more success at getting a price. If it's truly a specific item, very specific to one company, they probably have somebody that they're working with.
What was the first one you found, Adam? The first website?
The Defense Logistics Agency, DLA.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is DIBS.
Defense
Okay.
Logistics.
Yeah. You go to it by a DIBS.
Yeah, I got the
Uh,
DIB one.
Yeah.
One
I
before
listed it.
that.
I listed it in here.
RFP delivery is where in all DIBS transactions, we actually publish them. You don't want to search them. There's so many. They show about 1,000 a day. But you're usually like, this is a switch they're looking for, a push switch. Okay. And so
What
as
are
you
you looking for Florida based? Is there a way to do that?
you can. Mhm. Yeah. And so in here, I'll show you that. Here we go, and let's let Tyler in the room. Okay. And then when you come to this, it actually shows you the switch. And here's the document, the solicitation. And this is an open quote that they're looking for folks to actually bid on. And this is a downloadable document, okay, that you can see some of the details there. You have a place that you go actually go and bid. And here's the NSM part number, and you can actually search that probably on the web and find out who actually does it. They only want 7 of them. Smaller transaction, 7 switches. Unless they're a large item, could be 10,000 or so each, and they usually have a part price. So it's its own game. I'm not sure if I helped you with any of that, Matthew. You sound like you do have. It is a frustrating process. You really have to you got to get the art of the deal. That transaction is getting in with the right suppliers and becoming the representative, signing a representative contract so that you're not disclosing the information to others, and you're going that it's truly a private transaction at that point. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ask one question.
Yes, you can. Nikki.
Thank you. I hate to ask you to go back, but I tried to follow along when you were doing the SBA, where you found the SBA thing on SAM.
Sure. So I've got 2 requests here. So I'll do them at kind of both. One is how to find something in Florida, but the other one is the DSBS profile. So in your account, first of all, you're going to go to SAM. Okay, SAM is the System for Award Management.
Yeah,
the federal government. It's basically a fraud prevention system. They're just making sure you're legit. Okay, and they're going through and they're testing you. You have to sign in here. The other thing people call all the time, I'm going to expire. I got this email and they said I'm going to expire until these bad things are going to happen. It's just ignore it. You're not going to have anything happen to you. Okay, you got to log into the system once a year and update, make sure everything's cool, or you go away. Okay, and if you accidentally forget, you just become inactive. You log in and they say, hey, you're inactive. Activate. They just like to make sure you're still around. About 1,000 of you every single day come here and say, I want to do business with the federal government, and about 100 of you go away and say, no, I don't want to do business with the federal government after all. And they just have to purge that system every so often. Okay. So the first thing is you're not going to expire. The second thing is when you get your UEI, you're going to add to our site, at least. This is the quickest way to get there. You add under settings. Okay. You go into your account, update your UEI. Same thing on govdirections.com. You can add your UEI at the top of your boat. Okay.
I'm on that page. Now, where do I go?
Update UEI. Okay. Settings.
Settings.
Update UEI. And just type in your UEI right there. Okay. And that's my UEI. It'll pop up here. Sometimes I have to reset my cookies. It's an internet thing. So I may have to refresh the page or something for it to show up. Okay.
Update,
or log out, log back in. Just update it. Successfully updated. Okay. And then if you were to click our logo and go back to that page, that probably should reset it unless you got special security on their computer. And you should see your UEI here now. You'll have a little image of a person and a little check mark. Okay. And when you click that, it's going to take you to your SBA profile. It's just a shortcut. Now, the other way you can do it.
But that's where I can't get to. Right there. I can't find.
Got your UEI?
I got my UEI. I'm signed in.
Okay. If you have your UEI, I'm going to put this in the chat box.
Where's the UEI?
For everyone. Okay. Now all you have to do is add your UEI to the end of that string. Okay. And it'll take you. Okay. It's a technology that's
so
not
after
so advanced.
Settings, just do / and then my UEI.
No, when we're here, do settings.
Yes.
Okay. All you do is go here, update UEI, drop in your UEI right there.
I don't have that. I have my industry preferences, my location preferences, daily alerts, my filters. Oh, update UEI. Duh. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I spent an hour on the phone when I first started this business with somebody who didn't have their computer plugged in. And it took us an hour to figure that out. But so everybody comes at a different level. We're cool. Okay. So just put that on there. And then it's going to pop up there. And then we're just going to give you a quick link. Okay. And not only that, if you haven't put your UEI there, we're going to keep telling you every day. That's such an important thing. We'll say, please add your UEI. Please add your UEI. And that way we can tell you more about you. Okay. And give you better answers. Okay. Okay. And so we are here. And at this point.
It says updated. It's updated. So.
Okay. Now, if you click on our logo, that's one way to take you back to your dashboard, or the word home, or there's a human image. Okay. And now if you're here, you just tap on here. You should have your UEI there now. Okay. You may have to log out and log back in. It could take our system just a second, but it said successfully updated, so you should be okay. 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 The other thing, as you're doing that, somebody asked me, how do I find bids in Florida? And on the left side of your system here, you can filter and you can set filters and store them here called my filters. Okay. I'll show you how to do that. Right side, they don't work together. Okay. Right side's a global search just by itself. But if you want to filter, meaning I want to take those 51,887 bids, I want to get to something very specific. In fact, what I want to do is look for DLA bids in, and you're probably not going to have any of these, in Florida. And the reason why DLA bids are mostly outside Pennsylvania area, maybe in Ohio, there's some particular areas. Okay. So are there any DLA bids out of Florida? Okay. And I only want total small business. Okay. So now what I did is I took the entire database and I said, I just want these three parameters. This is my favorite filter. I'm going to save it. Okay. And I'm going to run it and there's no match. But if there is ever a match, it's going to come up. Okay. Now, when that happens, what I really want to do is say, okay, I got too precise. Now, I don't really care if it's a DLA bid. Okay. But I do want Florida bids. Okay. And maybe I want commodities. Those may be the equipment bids. Okay. Or whatever, equipment tools. It's good. Okay. Safety, maybe solar. So we're getting very, a little bit broader. Okay. And then I'm going to run that qualifier, save that profile. And then I'm only going to get Florida bids in those categories, 14. Now that we're going to put it on a map for you. Okay. And then you can come in and see where those potential ones are at. There is nothing on the equator is 0, 0. That means that something's happened in that government and it tells exactly where it's at. Okay. So you may have to skip that if it's ever 0, 0. Okay. There we go. And there it shows you where it's at. Okay. 220 industries that we monitor. Okay. For that process. Okay. So that's how you find precise. Now, if I'm just interested in equipment, maybe I'm just interested in toner cartridges. Okay. I can just search toner and that'll give me true micro purchase, find just toner products. And maybe I might even want to order this from Amazon, ship it to the government. And those are transactions that can occur. See them every day. Okay. And those are called middleman kind of concepts of transactions. And you're helping them because the government doesn't have to go through that trouble, making all that happen. You're providing a valuable service to them.
So it's up to
Okay.
your choice what toner you send them after you their details.
No, you need to read the documents and they're going to tell you exactly what they want.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to, not to try to be rude, always put back on mute afterwards. Okay. Here we go. And any more questions from anybody? Let me look in there and
Mark.
Yeah. Okay.
So Mark, I have a home inspection company. So I'm trying to figure out how often have you seen that in your past, you and Cynthia actually, from y'all past experience, that being an actual bid in
Sure.
the system?
Well, it's enough that we actually have a whole category of just trade inspections. Okay? So there are a lot of inspection contracts. It may not just be just home, though. Okay, you got to say think outside. There are home inspections, just so you know that there without a doubt. Okay, governments, community development departments,
Right.
city governments, they always contract this out. This is not something unusual. Okay,
Okay,
but you
great.
can run that query, and you can apply that filter, and you can see here the type of inspections that are done. Okay, materials testing. So sometimes you can look and see there's more type transactions that are occurring. And I'm just I use this as an example of how you actually don't have to wait sometimes. So you see somebody's actually in the business of reviewing inspection type contracts right now. You may want to take a look at something that's close and then email them or send them your capability statement and say, I know you're not buying my services yet, but when you get ready, consider us. But then you got all the information is up to speed. It's ready to go. I mean, this is somebody who's actually working now in the field, marketing and so forth. So you got a really good quality lead there. Okay, it's not a true bid though. Okay,
Sure.
and that way, if they've got a lot of times in your transactions, they won't be 25,000. Maybe they're going to bring you in there for a couple of days, and they have a $15,000 deal. They just pick up the phone and call you. Okay, they don't have
Awesome.
to contract that out. Okay.
Okay.
So
Great.
here's one here, multifamily housing building inspection.
Yes.
Concept.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good question. Angela, oh, you have a question?
I sure do. It's been a wealth of information. Thank you. I know it's like towards the end, so I'm gonna try and keep it quick. I've used your platform. I've used this platform for to get emails like alerts as far as all sources saw it. I mean, I've used it. I would like to use it to the epitome at this point.
Mhm.
I don't know how to subscribe for all this, but I'll
Mhm.
leave that for last. So I have been with registered, have my UI number, my vax, everything for 2 years now. The
Mhm.
past year, like I said, I've been actively using the this system to get the alerts. I have my SBA profile set up. I don't know if I'm unlucky or just not accurate. I think what I'm running into is the cost breakdown.
Mhm.
Um, I only search for federal contracts, so I've sent bid proposals out of state, all states. I'm looking
Mhm.
at Pennsylvania, but I'm legal to operate out of Pennsylvania, but I tend to send proposals out of state because on sam.gov you can work out, that gives you the ability to take on contracts across the country or whatever federal. So I always focus on federal personally.
Mhm.
Now, everything's set up. I don't like I said, I don't know what I'm missing, the accuracy of anything. I mean, it comes down sometimes for us is the cost breakdown. I think
Sure.
you mentioned 70% earlier in regards to a cost breakdown. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because,
Sure.
once I get a quote from a subcontractor in that general area who's done the site through walkthrough, or I've sent them scope of work, they sent me a quote, and then, we compile our proposal, we send it in properly, and we just haven't won anything. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know what
Okay.
we're missing.
So, a couple of loaded questions in there, I think, to be honest. It's a
Oh, I'm
lot of
sorry.
no,
I'm
no, no, a
sorry.
lot of information. So that try to does. I could spend a whole hour just on some of those topics. Okay. So, okay, the first thing is, what do I mean whenever I'm talking about 75th percentile? Okay. Well, essentially what happens is there's going to be so many folks competing against you each time. Okay. And you're going to want to, you're not going to just want to walk away from a loss ever.
Yes.
Okay. You're going to take that information, you're going to learn from it. It's a learning tool. Okay.
Yeah.
Take your information and then see who did what. This is a client that I work with. And we've evaluated, he does demolition. So we looked at 3 or 4 different bids over time, who won it, the yellows and the win. And we did some details, and you can take your indicators. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the indicator is, like in this one here, it's per square foot. It could be in my work, it's per employee. If sometimes it's per hour required to do the work, and you can estimate and so forth. When you get with your estimators, understand what kind of indicator that you're actually going to look for, and then you
Mm-hmm.
take and you see what everybody actually bids and who wins. Okay,
In the
and as a part
past.
of in the past.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, and then the winner I have here each of these, and then the average cost is here, but this number I actually got to, and I said, well, this is where we really need to be at on the average of all the wins in order for you to win. Okay, do you want to win?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
if you're going to bid on these type contracts in this area, and this is for this one city that we just did for it, this is
Okay.
in Beaumont, Texas. Okay, so we're very precise in the win. You got to bid there and you will win. Okay. But he's like, it's going to cost me $4 a square foot to do the work. I said, well, you don't want to win. Okay. So we want to move on. You're going to find something that fits you. Okay. Because sometimes you're just not willing to go to that point. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you just sometimes you want to buy the business in order to get into the door. Okay. And that's called buying the business. And there you would bid that price and you would win it. And then the next time you're hoping the other folks decide not to bid, and then you get more business in the future. Now that doesn't happen that often, but I mean, there's goals, there's reasons why you want to do it. Not only that, but you may want to have a past performance. Got to build up some past performance, and the value of that is added
Mm-hmm.
to it. So, but you're not going to bid such a level that you're going to lose your shirt. That doesn't make any sense. And in the
Yes.
process, and you also don't want to. I mean, let's show some of these we've evaluated. Like here's one I always put up. This is a transaction, and in this case here, We had 4 competitors, and I'll pull over so you can't see the competitors. But this is the price for the exact same project. Now look, these were right kind of in line. But here's the guy who won. You only need at least $70,000 on the table, which is probably not a good idea.
How do you find that? I don't. How
It's
do you?
all this information is publicly available. Okay.
It is.
So one
Mm.
tool that you can use is at the federal level, if that's where you're primarily focused in at, and I'll get to you, Nikki, but is FPDS, Federal Procurement Data System. Okay. And
Okay.
so here I can come in, I can type in a word like demolition. Okay. And start off with just a simple, easy search. Okay. And it's going to show me all the transactions that have been awarded. Literally going to show me for the last 20 years. But so I'm going to step back at this point. I'm going to give it some more instructions. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm not interested in everything. I want to actually go in and look at things created date from, last year to today. Okay? Maybe May. Okay. So I'm not going to focus in on too old. It's not going to do me any good. Okay. Because the market's changed so much there. Okay?
Correct.
So I just type that, hit search, and then it's going to give me just results for the last year that are in demolition contracts. And then I might want to go in and say, okay, yeah, I really only interested in Roanoke area. Okay? You get very precise in your process. When you see these, you'll see the win. You open it up, gives you the contract. Okay. Gives you all the contract details. If you've been watching the Doge thing, this is a database that they use, and it's kind of funny.
Wow.
They kind of just found this, and it's been around since as long as I've been around. But it's here and it's there, and so it'll tell you exactly what the work was, and gives you the original contract, and you can take that information, and then you can go back to the original contract, see the square footage on it, get you some numbers and stats. So it does take a little bit of work.
Yes.
You can also use tools like chat to do that work for you. And you say, here is the area that I want. Here are the bids that I've seen. Here's samples of them. Can you give me some indicators? Yeah. So that can be done. We actually do that for you if you in our services. So and we
Did
show you
not
how to
know
do
that.
that.
Did not know
So-
that. That I think that's where
Oh,
we're
it
getting
saves you a
stuck.
lot. Yeah, it is probably the number one way to get stuck. In fact,
Mhm.
okay. The hardest
Okay.
one to get is your the first couple in because you got to really understand where your price is at, needs to be at,
Correct.
and after that, they sort of fall in. Okay.
Yes. And now
When
the
I bid,
uh-huh.
when I say 70 percentile, that means 25% of the people bid higher than me, and 74% below me. Okay. And I'm going to be right there. I'm not going to be the low bidder ever, because as
Yes.
a part of evaluation criteria in my work specifically, in most work, is not just low bid. It's also quality of work, past performance. There's
Correct.
usually an indicator of quality. Okay.
Yes.
And I don't need to have the low price because I've got 30 years experience doing what I do. And
Exactly.
frankly, I'm pretty good at what I do. So I get
Exactly.
that part of it. I get 100. And so I only need to get 80% on my scoring for the price, and then I can win. Okay. Usually.
Okay.
Some
And
places
then
that
the
won't low
past
bid, I don't win. Yeah.
no low bidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
The past performance, are they wanting to see like, I've been in business 5 years, so I've had managed
Mhm.
many contracts. Past do they we were thinking like in the government itself, like are they wanting to
Sure.
see that you've handled government, government contracts and that builds their trust with you, or just you're in the private sector?
Yeah, this is the way I always like to, and you have to watch this because every contract officer can be just a little bit different. I had a
Mm-hmm.
client the other day that specifically they wanted only municipal references, and
Mm-hmm.
we weren't able to do that for that client, and then
Mm-hmm.
they were basically ruled non-responsive, and mean they didn't follow the exact rule. Okay, so that
Yes.
contracting officer made a mistake, I think, and that's actually a barrier to entry. I protest against that usually, because when the purpose of a reference is to help the confidence level of the contracting officer increase. That
Yes.
because there is no better way to know that you can do something than for somebody else to say you've done it already for them. And so it shouldn't matter where it comes from.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, as long as it is a good reference that you could fall back
Mm-hmm.
on. Now, I certainly understand that they want me just to give references of cities that I've worked with, and if I
Mm-hmm.
can do that, let me do that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first started out, I didn't have any cities that I work with, so I couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that shouldn't keep me out of business because I'm still good at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And you are apparently, and you're in business and you do have success. So you just have to sell that in the right way and draw all those references back. But I would never be when I rank references, and I do rank those for our members and our customers,
Hmm.
the first one is that you meet the criteria exactly. Okay, that is it is a past government official for a government contract that I won and that I've completed and I've got a good reference from it. That's the number one reference I want to get back. Okay.
Okay.
Second level is it could be a private company or a private transaction or somebody I was a sub on it or something. And then
Hmm.
the third level is it's basically it's a character reference. I know this person knows me. They know I'll do a good job. They can vouch for me. Those bottom two are about equal. To be frank with you, they're usually about equal. The number one is the one who you've done a contract with. Until you get those, you got to deal with the others. Okay, but
Understood.
once you do get three of the others of the primary ones, then you want to use that repeatedly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of mine are primary. All my primary customers and references and subcontracts are commercial cleaning. Like it's strictly
Yeah.
across the board. And there's so many alerts for commercial cleaning. So I really need to focus on this cost breakdown and what you told me. I really appreciate that. That was extremely helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So Nikki. Also have Charleston.
Yeah, how you doing,
Hey,
guys?
Charleston.
I see you guys are you and Cynthia are both from Georgia.
We
Um,
are. Yeah.
yes, yes. I'm in Georgia too. Migrant from New Jersey. But anyway, so I was just wanted to know. I see that you have this drive connected to your thing. How do I get that drive connected to my account, so to speak?
Sure. Yeah. So there's a service that we offer. We set it up for you, and there's a fee for that, and you can
Oh,
call
so
our
that's
offices for that. Yeah. Hasn't been a sales type of call today, but you can do it yourself. You can build your own drive, and I have a video that kind of shows you how to do that. But
okay.
our services are here for our monthly service, and then in your home account we have something called Gov Advice, and there's a micro consulting platform where we help. Okay, and you can come in, and part of that is one of the first level is just to get started, and we set it up, and it's a $99 fee. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second thing is the chat GPT, the one that you
Mhm.
guys have. Is that something that's offered with the one of your pricing plan, or is that something
It,
separate?
in all of this is a one-on-one session basically that we get you started and get you set up and show you how to do that, work with you on your prompts and all. But the chat GPT, I built it on an OpenAI model, so it's free, and you can just go to Chat GPT and you can search that, and the prompts that are there already. So that's just part of that service that they offer. And there's a free level within their system, up to so many, based on memory, I believe. I use a premium. It's probably the most valuable thing I've ever purchased in my life. In fact, I just read,
Okay.
I think in UAE, I think it is the
So it's
government
on
just
the
gave
you
everybody a
say it's
copy.
on
Mhm.
you say it's on the open source?
You go to Chat GPT, okay, or you
Okay.
can go to OpenAI, chatgpt.com. Okay. And there are a lot of different chats here, but the first one you first get here, you have to log in. But then you can search here, search chats, and there's different ones that you can do. Okay. Excuse
Okay.
me. You search GPTs, not chats. These are my chats. And clients I
Okay.
work with, I have their own individual. And then you can search, you can find ours, but there's others that are out there too. So
Okay.
these are tools that help you. Um, all I try to do in this process is take the mystery out of it. There are a lot of good AI tools that are available. I know some of us are a little concerned about using them. I don't want our clients that I work with. I don't want them to be concerned. It's a great tool. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
My son got me involved in it. You know, you put in like create invitation and just it's
yeah,
just amazing how quickly
yeah.
it creates stuff for
But
you.
it's like everything else. You got to teach it. You got to train it.
Yeah.
And otherwise you can get what's referred to as ghosting information or inaccurate. But the only reason it's doing that is because you're not training it correctly. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you got to give it information about your company and the right answers, and you got to help it. And you can't just take what it spits out and just use that. It's not a good strategy. You got to use it in a proactive manner, and you'll get better. And then it continues to learn. And I train ours routinely. So
And
okay.
then final thing before I shut up,
Oh.
the the templates for
Mhm.
the actual proposals. Do you guys provide that? for?
It's part of that service, that getting started service. Yeah.
Okay, the 99 bucks. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that's basically, we've put a lot of time in developing them, so that's what it's for. Okay, to get you going. But you can go out, once again, this information like this is out there on the internet. You can find it yourself, and you can look at some of the sites, like a capability statement, for example. You can look at. I always send people like the Department of Labor, just say Department of Labor capability statement. They'll show you what they want on it and show you how to do it, and even the responses to proposals. Governments tell you really what they want, so you got to follow the instructions. You don't follow our instructions. You follow their instructions and what they're looking for, and you'll get the right information back to them every statement. We just done so many of them that we can generate the textual construction that is necessary to be almost where it's almost the same as what you need.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Get into much detail.
I lied. So one more thing before,
Mhm. Sure.
I noticed you didn't mention. I noticed you mentioned subcontracting a little bit, and
Mhm.
so I guess it depending on your area, you can find some subcontractors. Is that the approach, or is it better to just
Sure.
go right direct initially?
Um, but it depends on what the RFP is looking for. My work, the reason why I think I've closed the one I have on there as my 10 indicators, but one of those is that I want to do any kind of insurance and benefits survey. So if it has that requirement, I don't like to do that, but if it is required and it's something I want to go after, then I'll subcontract that part out. Okay. And so that's when I know. So you look for things when you're using subcontractors. There's two things. One, you might be trying to fulfill a government requirement to do some sort of, build some sort of team, or it includes small businesses, or some sort of hub related activity, historically underutilized business. So in some place states, they encourage that and they give you points for that. So you might do that with a sub. The other is that you need some sort of talent that you don't have, and you want to use somebody else's talent. You want to bring them in, but they don't want to be an employee of your company or associated. They want to be separate in the approach on that. So whenever I do this, I have somebody doing a salary survey. I can contract that out, and then I can you get the main deal. I'll just come there as a team relationship, and I have a teaming agreement of some sort.
Okay,
So everybody's different. Mhm.
I was thinking more on the level of my company being the
You
subcontractor.
can be so then you got to have some sort of expertise that you are wanting to offer to someone. And then that could be a talent, or it could be the fact that you are a particular demographic that they're seeking to include in their proposal. Okay, so there's different parameters around how you become a sub on the bigger project. And sometimes governments are encouraging small businesses to include, large businesses to include small businesses. Maybe sometimes when they include service disabled, sometimes when they include MBEs, minority business enterprises. So
Mhm.
if you have those criteria that are associated with your company, then you want to be able to market yourself, and that needs to be on your capability statement. Okay, and so the way to really kind of build that is you see a project that you have an interest in, follow the pre-bid meeting, go to the pre-bid meeting just like you come to this meeting. You have your capability statement ready to go. And if anybody had been in my meeting before, the first thing I say is put your capability statement in the chat box. Okay, tell somebody you're interested in subbing. Tell them why you're there. And so folks who are monitoring that for a variety of reasons will pick up on that. If you go in nowadays, we're going back more in person. First thing you do when you get there is, write on the little note, interested in subbing when you sign in. Or when you introduce yourself, a lot of the times they'll ask you to stand up, introduce yourself, and you say, "I'm here because I'm interested in being a sub. Here are my criteria." And so, market. Okay, and then also on your SBA DSBS profile, you say that you're interested in subbing. You can put
Okay.
that under the criteria. Okay, just tell us.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Charleston. And Nikki, you still have your hand up. Did you have something, or I'm going to lower that?
She was
Okay,
concerned about the
okay.
SBA details.
So I'm going to stop live YouTube now. I should have stopped a little earlier. Let me just do
Yeah.
that real quick. I know we got a long YouTube channel today, but it's all up there, and you'll hear these great questions that you guys asked as well. Okay, and in that process, let me stop there, and I'll hang out here just for a little bit longer.